Hello, welcome to Microsoft Cloud Option webinar series. My name is Vivek Bhatnagar. I am CTO and founder of UnifyCloud. So this is about business outcome. Microsoft also recommend a template to document business outcome. So how do you actually document this whole business outcome? And the reason because at this point of time, we are trying to bridge the gap between business and technical conversations. So this template, which I like more, which I also like and used in my multiple engagements, help you to basically uniformly capture business outcomes. And later you can use the same thing when you go and talk to the technical stakeholders and other things. This outcome template focus on simplified conversation, which can quickly engage stakeholders without getting too deep into technical solutions. By rapidly understanding and aligning the key performance indicator, which I call KPIs, and the business driver that are most important to our stakeholders, your team can think about high level of approaches and of the transformation before actually going to implementation details. So this is very important to understand. And as if you can see, there is a picture on the left hand side here, and this picture actually use analogy of a house and telling you that what are the three important things that you will document in this template. You can see that mostly stakeholders, which are technical and business stakeholders, which actually define their different business outcomes, and they also define why they want this outcome, what's the main drivers, what's the KPI, how they're measuring it, and then what are the capabilities you have to have in the cloud to achieve those business outcomes, and helping you to measuring of those outcomes, and also show how they're related to drivers. So you can see that there's a template in Excel, and in this you can actually document business drivers, KPIs, and capabilities here. So for example, here we have written the business driver is steady design, steady conduct. This is for a therapeutic product owner. And the KPI, the way they are measuring it, because approximately $3 million opportunity cost per day per drug. And finally, to achieve this business outcome is they need a capability, something called data-driven protocol or trial simulation or structural collaboration. So this is the way you can actually document very easily business outcome that you can use the language which these business owners can understand, and then show them that what cloud capabilities you are going to provision in this journey, which are going to help which are going to help them to achieve these outcomes. And so it's a very simple way of documenting outcome, and then showing to and discuss with everyone. And the reason I love it, because you can actually put a lot of technical capabilities and actually solutions and ecosystem for a cloud without going very deep into all these things, and get at least formal approval from everyone to move in this journey. On the left hand side, this picture is very important, because what I have seen that majority of cloud engagements, everybody focus on like how many VMs, how many applications, how do we have network, what's the bandwidth, and other thing. So all these things fall into something called technical discovery. And technical discovery is important, don't get me wrong, but what basically point I'm making here is that if the discovery is limited to technical discovery, the solution is likely to miss many opportunities to improve the business. An enterprise architect, the solution architect, and other technically minded leaders uh, can actually make use of this template so that they can discover the real business drivers in their companies. What are the KPIs their business leaders want them to use? And then they can align these business drivers and KPIs to achieve the correct business outcome, and then provision the capabilities to support that outcome. So that's why this phase is very important. And if you skip this phase, or if nobody has this information, uh, most likely you are going to miss the business outcome at the end of this cloud migration journey or anything. That's why I just want to spend time into explaining this slide and template. Uh, and I do included a link of the template, which is basically used here, and I can show you on my screen. So the template is here, which you can actually download from Microsoft website. recap. I have included a link and this as part of this slide. So you can always use this template for your work. So this is an Excel template. Okay, so let's start moving from our discussion on outcome. Let's talk about a very important aspect of business justification. And business justification is an important aspect of cloud strategy, because if somebody is having a motivation, and the motivation is to drive a particular business outcome, then you need a lot of numbers and other things to support that equation. That this is the business justification for that business outcome which we should follow in our cloud journey. And there are like a lot of business justification, but I just want to start with some of the myths before I start jumping into different types of business justification. One myth, which is like everybody has, like and typically goes with nearly all the engagements, that everybody say the cloud is always cheaper. And I have heard in nearly 80% to 90% of my meetings that we want to go to cloud because we want to save costs, and there's nothing wrong in it. It mostly is the right thing to ask for. But we need to make sure that it's the common belief that operating a data center into cloud is always cheaper than operating one in on-premise is generally correct, but it is not always the case. Sometimes cloud operating costs are higher. Their higher costs are often caused by poor cost governance. So there are a lot of customers just move to the cloud, like they just migrate their VMs to the cloud without thinking about how they're going to govern the cost, how they're going to put the cost controls. There are a lot of misaligned system architecture, like in a hurry to move to the cloud, they don't pay correct or required attention of the security or identity or monitoring, and they actually try to mimic their on-premise systems, and in this way they have taken a lot of misaligned decisions. Or there are process duplication, there's a typical system configuration, or there are like greater staffing costs. So there can be multiple reasons for cloud ultimately not cheaper than on-premise. And fortunately, you can always mitigate majority of this problem. But I just want to talk about we all need to understand that cloud is not going to always be cheaper if customer is making all these mistakes. The second myth, which is like also pushed by a lot of sales and marketing teams, everything should go to the cloud. So it means that we're closing down data centers, everything going to move to the cloud. In fact, some business driver might lead you to choose otherwise. So you might find some business drivers or business outcome which will go you as to adopt a hybrid solution, means like not everything going to the cloud and maybe in first phase or maybe in a couple of years. There are a few things going to stay in, on premise, and there might be any reason. There might be a reason of compliance. There might be reason of that is a IP of hugely importance, and you don't want to put it as on the cloud in first phase. Or there might be a reason of latency, multiple reasons, or sometimes licensing cost, or sometimes sunk cost, which you have already paid to a vendor. So all these reasons may basically force you to choose a hybrid solution. So before you finalize a business model, it's smart to complete the first round of a qualitative analysis. And these approaches could also identify dependencies or traffic pattern, which will force you to necessitate or select a hybrid solution. So it's very important to understand that a lot more time, everything might not go to the cloud. Third myth, and this is like I have seen in again like a lot of engagement, and the myth is mirroring my on-premise environment will help me to save money in the cloud. And this is very common human tendency. Whenever you talk to an existing IT team which has their existing skills, they would like to mimic everything what they are doing on premise to the cloud without understanding that cloud is different, the security way of different, the monitoring is different, capabilities are different, and that thing. But you might have heard saying people like, okay, I'm happy to use this firewall on premise. I want to use the same firewall in the cloud without thinking whether the type of firewall will work on the cloud properly or not. Or sometimes people say I'm using this identity or this gateway or this application management system on premise, and I don't want to change. I just want the same system, other things, without taking a discussion to the capability side. During this all digital estate planning, it is not unheard like for businesses to detect unusual capacities, the 50% of provision environment, but cloud is entirely different thing. And if you try to provision your cloud asset to match your current provisioning on premise, one thing is certain that you will not have the cost saving which you are looking for, or cost saving become very hard to realize. So always just look for this and educate people that going to cloud is not mirroring everything on premise to the cloud. Okay, the fourth one, and it is also like people always think that and the reason which I called it a myth, because this will lead to a lot of wrong decisions. So typically when a vendor try to sell you a cloud, they just focus on one cost, which is like, cost of servers. So they say, okay, server costs drive business case for migration cloud. And every time they just focus, okay, you are running these 100 VMs costing you this much on premise. I can move these VMs to the cloud and that's going to cost only this much. And a lot more customers fall into that trap without knowing correctly. Like they are not able to look at holistically cost of the moving the whole environment, because this is not the question of 100 VMs. This is not question of maybe 200 databases. This is much more than what. So when you look at the complete ROI or TCO cost, you should look at like to a different scale, like not only time, like 1 to 5 year or other things, but you have to look at like what is your hardware refresh cycle going to be, what is the cost of the software for virtualization, or what is the cost of the software which are running on these VMs. Are you getting any discount? Because for example, if you're using Microsoft products, you will get hefty discount on Microsoft Azure. Or few things like how do you manage uh, the existing hardware cost? Like, is there any business loss might happen because of outage and the thing? What is the cost currently, and how it's going to be in the cloud? And as in any scenario, real estate, facility, utility cost, these all play a very important way to represent the things when you collect the complete cost. Okay, let's take a couple of more myths here. I will pick like this. Operating expense model is better than the capital expense model, which makes sense financially as you read this. Operating expense may be better than the capital expense model because then you can expense these things in your taxes very well. But sometimes this is not the case for few companies. They might use this as a tax instrument, and like maybe they are doing some sort of a depreciation and other calculations. So look at like how companies doing for capital expense, and then decide whether this is true in your case or not. And last one, and I will leave others maybe to discuss among yourself. But the last one is like moving to the cloud is like a flipping a switch. This is never true. Like moving in a cloud or migration modernization are actually a manually intense technical transformation. Even if you use a lot of tools which are available in the market, it is really an intense technical transformation. Not only technical, this also has cultural like impact or like other things which can slow you down. Like when time is important aspect for a business justification, the best migration is proper planning. So spend as much as time you can on a planning. During planning, look at your approaches, different approaches against the timelines you are agreeing to. Definitely invest time and energy to understand technical adoption, like constraints and the pressure which you can have once you are really chasing these timelines. Uh, And as I cautious you, cultural and people are important in this equation. Um, Cloud adoption create changes, a lot of desire, transformation. Unfortunately, sometimes people fear change and they might need additional support to align themselves to the plan. So always keep this cultural aspect in your mind while talking to timelines, while talking to business outcome. Identify the key people in your team who can help you not only driving the technical changes, but also can drive the cultural transformation when you look at for these business justification.